Hey there, Simon here from AQ Outdoors and Splitboard HQ, and just checking in with a quick review on my latest piece of splitboarding gear, which is the Karakoram Prime X bindings. So I usually ride hard boots, but my young 8-year-old son is now getting into splitboarding and he's in soft boots, so I figured being in a similar setup to him kind of made more sense. And I've actually been really enjoying riding soft boots this season so far. So the Prime X carbons are Karakoram's top of the line binding. They don't come in cheap. I think they're $1,500 Canadian at retail, and they're their most lightweight bindings with a really nice stiff carbon high back. What I've found so far is it's a super intuitive system. Now, in saying that, I've been using Karakoram bindings on and off since the initial primes, and there's obviously been a lot of improvements since then. So, some of the pros, some of the cons, just for you to take away and hopefully make a good decision on if they're right for you. So over the years, I've ridden pretty much all of the Karakoram bindings from the initial Prime ones. Obviously a lot of improvements from there. I'll just go over some of the key features of the Carbon X's here. Super lightweight, super stiff binding build. You've got the carbon high back. You've got slots in here for their flex lock, which is a touring assist, so it helps stiffen the system up if you're having to traverse or have icy skin tracks to deal with, particularly on icy side hills. Just takes some of the play out of that soft boot system and helps you hold an edge more effectively. That's something that you buy additionally, but that's what those are built in for. You have the high back adjuster here, so you've got your sort of more intermediate forward lean, more aggressive forward lean, and then you have your touring mode there as well. The fastening system, which really helps with this whole active board joining technology, is here. This clips, and then basically underneath here you'll see these clip into the base plate, and that creates, in my opinion, the best bind of any splitboard binding, and that goes through the whole Karakoram binding lineup. Good quality straps and buckles. I've had a pair of free ranges on my resort board for probably 3 years now I think, and I haven't had to replace any buckles or anything like that with, 30 to 40 days of resort riding on those, and they're the same buckles, so they seem to be holding up really, really well. Other components of this system, they have their base plate. So these differ quite a lot from your traditional Voile or Spark base plate in the sense that there's a ton of overlap over that center edge. So with that pulling together with the pins and this overlap, it creates a very, very good bond between the two split skis in board mode. And so I find there's less flex in the middle, which is really nice. Over the last few years, they've replaced a lot of the aluminum and such in the base plate here. So you have less effective balling of snow, like in wet snow conditions. It's much easier to scuff it off, and it doesn't bond to the aluminum as much because it's now like a nylon, which is really nice. That's been a huge improvement in the last few years. You've got the touring mode here. Okay, so you basically have this system in here where this pops in to the little cradle and you simply step down and then you're in touring mode. I find that this is a very, very smooth feel. It doesn't feel as good as touring in my hard boots, that's for sure. Like touring in hard boots is definitely superior. However, you don't get to ride a soft boot down, so there is that balance. So nice and easy to use touring mode. And then you have your heel risers. To be perfectly honest, I don't think they've knocked these out of the park. This is one of my kind of, I don't love this part of the Karakoram binding setup. You can do it with a pole, but I find a lot of people struggle with it. Once you get it dialed, it's okay, but basically it flicks up and you're automatically, when you flick it up, you're in the higher of the touring modes, then that folds down to give you your lower touring mode. Again, I think there's much more simple systems on my hard boot setup. I just have the old Voile wires and they're so slick and so easy to use. This is a little bit cumbersome compared to that. However, in the overall scheme of things, we're there to ride. We don't use our heel risers all the time, so maybe there'll be some improvements in the future there from 2022, 23. The other component is, unlike a Spark binding, for example, the heel lockdown for skiing comes included. You don't have to buy this additionally. So these are some of the things with a Karakoram binding where when you look at the overall price, it can be a little bit or a lot more than say a Spark or a Voile binding, but most of the stuff is included in the package and this is one of them. So again, the system is good. It's a bit fiddly to use. It's not something that's like really quick and easy to use in the field. In all transparency, I've not once used this in the field. I'm kind of a fan of the whole like free the heel movement when it comes to split skiing. It makes it a bit more exciting and a bit more, I don't know, adventurous. All of the Karakoram systems are the same. So they have the same base plate, they have the same touring mode. The only thing that differs is the free ranges. They have just a single height adjustment and they don't have the heel lockdown component to them. You can upgrade to it, but they don't come out of the box because the free ranges are more of a binding design for resort riding and a little bit of backcountry riding, so they keep that component a little more simple. So in a nutshell, from a soft boot binding standpoint, the Karakoram lineup are by far my favorite. I think that people often, that we're chatting to in the shop, often get caught up in that Spark, Volet and other brands are less money, and I would agree, that is the case. However, if you want a system that feels the most like a resort board when you put it back together, the Karakoram binding systems are, you know, I think are the best built and the best designed as far as that goes. They also stand up really well. We see very, very few warranties, very, very few breakages. They do require somewhat of a process, like anything, to keep snow out of the base plate, especially in wet snowpack areas. Just simple things like putting your binding upside down in the snow when you're transitioning. You do that, you clear the snow away as you transition. That's just gonna make everything quicker and easier. You can do the transition. I've seen people do it very successfully, keeping the bindings on your feet. You don't even need to take them off. I've never been able to do it particularly well, so I don't bother. I just take them off and I don't really struggle for it being slow. But it is something that you can play around with if you're into it. So in a nutshell, I think that my final take on this is, from a downhill performance standpoint, the whole Karakoram lineup are as good as it gets in split boarding. I think they haven't quite hit the mark necessarily on their heel riser system. I think it's a bit awkward at times, a little hard to use. Harder than other systems. It's not hard to use, it's just harder than other systems. Their heel lockdown for ski mode is awesome in the sense that it's like really bomber, but again, it's not super easy and slick to use in the field. Maybe with some more practice, which I have zero, you could get quick at it, but I've never seen anyone really tune it in super well. Overall, I think it's fantastic, whichever model you go with, whether it's a Nomad, whether it's the Prime X Carbon, whether it's the Free Ranger, because you're going to use it at the resort a bit. I don't think you can really go wrong. And that additional money that you spend, if price isn't the main focus of your purchase, I would say it would be good to have it as a very strong consideration. That's it, that's all. Some pros, some cons. You know, in my humble opinion, what I think about the bindings. Hopefully that was helpful. If you liked the video, give us a like and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more great content from AQ Outdoors and Splitboard HQ. Thanks so much and happy shredding.